My name is Natalie, and I'm 34 years old. The first time my mother told me I wasn't in the will, she said it like she was commenting on the weather. Oh, Natalie, she sighed, stirring her tea without looking at me. Your father and I updated everything last month. We think it's best if the estate goes to your sister. You've always been independent. Independent. That was the word they used whenever they wanted to describe me, without saying difficult. We were sitting in their sunlit kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd done homework as a kid, where my dad once taught me how to flip pancakes without breaking them. The house was worth at least $900,000 now. They bought it for $180,000 in the early 90s. There were investments too, retirement accounts, land my grandfather had owned, and apparently none of it had my name attached anymore. I didn't argue that day. I just nodded. Of course, I said, it's your money. But the truth was more complicated than hurt pride. 3 years earlier, I had loaned my parents $120,000. No contract, no interest agreement on paper, no lawyer involved, just a bank transfer and a promise. Dad's construction business had hit a rough patch after a lawsuit. Mom called me crying, saying they might lose the house. I had just sold my tech startup shares, and for the first time in my life, I had real savings. You're our only hope, she'd said. So I wired the money, just until we stabilize. Dad promised, we'll pay you back within a year. They never did. At first, I didn't push. I was doing well. I bought a condo downtown, traveled, built a consulting firm. I told myself family mattered more than paperwork. Then the will conversation happened. It wasn't just that they cut me out. It was how they justified it. We feel Olivia needs more support, Mom explained. She has the kids. You don't. My younger sister Olivia was 31, married, with 2 toddlers, and a talent for emotional dramatics. She'd never held a job longer than 8 months. My parents had covered her credit card bills more times than I could count. I wasn't jealous, but I wasn't blind. 2 weeks after that kitchen conversation, Dad suffered a mild stroke. It wasn't fatal, but it terrified everyone. Hospital machines, white walls, fragile silence. Mortality became real overnight. Olivia practically moved into their house to help. She handled appointments, paperwork, conversations with lawyers. Whenever I visited, conversations stopped when I entered the room. I joked once, should I be worried about being erased from family history too? Olivia smiled sweetly. You always land on your feet, Natalie. Independent. A month later, Dad passed unexpectedly due to complications. The funeral was controlled and polite. Olivia cried loudly. Mom looked hollow. 3 weeks later, we sat in a quiet office for the will reading. The lawyer, Mr. Donnelly, adjusted his glasses and began. To my beloved wife, Carol Hale, I leave all personal property and full rights to our primary residence. Upon her passing, the residence and remaining estate shall transfer entirely to my daughter, Olivia Hale. A pause. My daughter, Natalie Hale, has been provided for during my lifetime and is therefore not included in further distribution. Provided for. The phrase hung in the air. Olivia squeezed Mom's hand. I sat still. I wasn't angry. I was thinking. That night, I opened a folder on my laptop labeled Transfers. When I wired $120,000 to my father's business account 3 years earlier, I had written something specific in the memo line. Loan, repayment within 12 months. I also had emails. Dad thanking me. Dad confirming the repayment plan. Dad acknowledging it was a loan. They probably forgot that detail, or assumed I had. The estate inventory arrived 2 weeks later. Total value after debts, approximately $2.4 million. I scheduled a consultation with an estate attorney named Rebecca Lynn. After reviewing everything, She looked at me carefully. "You're not contesting the will?" she asked. "No," I said. "I don't want the house." "What do you want?" "I want repayment of a documented loan owed by the estate." Her expression shifted slightly. "That changes things. Because when someone dies, their debts must be settled before assets are distributed, and a documented loan counts as debt." Rebecca drafted a formal creditor claim against the estate for $120,000 plus conservative interest at 3% annually, as referenced in Dad's email. Total claim, $131,200. We filed it before the legal deadline. 2 weeks later, Olivia called me furious. "What is this?" she demanded. "You're trying to take money from Mom." "I'm filing a legitimate creditor claim." I replied calmly. "You don't need that money. It's not about need. It's selfish." I let her speak. Then I said quietly, "Dad called it a loan." Silence. She hung up. Mediation was scheduled. Mom looked exhausted when we sat across from each other in the conference room. "You're really doing this?" she asked softly. "I gave you $120,000 when you said you'd lose the house." I replied. "I trusted you, and we were grateful." "I'm not in the will," I continued evenly. "That was your decision. But debts don't disappear because it's uncomfortable." Olivia slammed a folder onto the table. "You're attacking your own family." Rebecca spoke calmly. "We're enforcing a documented agreement." The emails were clear. The transfer was labeled. The timeline specific. If they rejected the claim, we'd go to probate court. And probate judges don't care about family dynamics. They care about documentation. 3 months later, the ruling came. The estate was required to satisfy my creditor claim before final distribution. To do so, they had to liquidate part of Dad's investment portfolio. Olivia's future inheritance shrank accordingly. She stopped speaking to me after that. Mom called late one evening. "I never thought you'd take us to court," she whispered. "I never thought you'd cut me out without settling what you owed." I replied. She cried quietly. I didn't feel victorious. I felt steady. This wasn't revenge. It was correction. They assumed independence meant I wouldn't assert myself. They assumed I wouldn't push back. They missed one detail. I keep records. A year later, probate closed. Olivia and I exchanged polite holiday texts. Nothing more. Mom and I are rebuilding something cautious and honest. She admitted recently that Olivia pushed heavily for the will revision, that they rationalized cutting me out because Natalie doesn't need us. Maybe I don't. But that doesn't mean I don't matter. Last week, Mom asked if I'd come fix a loose cabinet hinge. I did. We stood in the same kitchen where she once told me I wasn't included. Sunlight poured through the windows just the same. "Your father was proud of you," she said quietly. "He just didn't always know how to show it." I nodded. "I know. Because I never wanted their house. I never wanted their land. I wanted acknowledgement. And in the end, I received something more valuable than inheritance. Proof that being independent doesn't mean being invisible. And when they cut me out of the will, they forgot something important. I was never out of the ledger.